Good morning, everybody. Welcome to our LinkedIn Live event here on the vending industry in the UK and excuse me, emerging trends within the vending industry in the UK. We figured it'd be fun to get things started off. I'm joined with Robin, Paul, and Graham, who I'll introduce you to further in a couple minutes here. But we thought it'd be fun to start off with a light question. And that question, Robin, I'll ask you first. What is your go-to purchase out of a vending machine or a micro market?
Brian, good morning. Great question. For those who don't know, I worked for Nestle Roundtree and was very privileged to be the marketing manager of Kit Kat back in the 90s. And there is nothing better than a freshly made Kit Kat straight off the belt. And that's always been my product of choice out of vending machine or micro market or anywhere I can get my hands on one.
Okay. And Graham, how about you? What's your go-to,
Yeah. I think I would have to probably pick a cup of coffee. That would be, I think vending, maybe a bit like Robin, we're showing our age a bit. I want a cup of Gold Blend, Robin. That would be my go-to product over all the years.
Great choice.
And Paul, I know it looks like you're having some issues with your mic. So it looks like your mic is not connected. Are you able to connect that mic? And then I can.
His go-to product is a new set of earphones with a mic that works. That would be it.
Let's see here.
Technology, eh, Rob?
All in favor of it.
Quite right, too.
Yeah. Let's give him a minute here. I did shoot him a message. Yeah, okay. We're having some mic issues on Paul's end, which is no issue. Let's see.
You can't unmute yourself, Paul, I take it.
I'm trying to unmute him, but it's saying his mic is not connected. So let me.
Oh, he's gone.
Let me remove him and try to add him back. Paul, I did send. I don't know if you can hear me, but I sent you a note on WhatsApp. And we might remove you and then add you back in. But let's get started here and we'll figure things out there and on Paul's audio. But I want to just again welcome everybody. Again, I'm Brian Hilton. I'm here as a marketing specialist with Cantaloupe. And I'm joined by 3 industry experts on the future of the UK vending industry. As consumer expectations and workplace environments evolve, the vending industry in the UK must adapt to meet new needs. And we'll discuss this in greater detail over the next half hour or so. And I'm really excited to be joined with these guys. So I'll go ahead and introduce them here. Graham, you are our moderator. Graham is with the Nivo Group and has been in the industry for about 50 years in a variety of different roles. He's worked for organizations like Mars, but spent the last 17 years with Nivo and LTT Vending. So welcome, Graham.
Thank you for having me.
Robin, our very own Robin Turver, has also spent several decades in the vending industry. Robin has collaborated with Graham at LTT Vending and spent time with Nestle and currently works here at Cantaloupe and SB Software. And then Paul, looks like your mic's back on, Paul. Can you hear everybody?
Yeah.
So Paul has spent 45 years in the vending industry in manufacturing and sales and operations roles. And he managed his own vending company for about 22 years and has spent the last 7 years with Refresh Me. So in our preliminary calls, I was pretty astounded by the amount of time that the three of you have spent in the vending industry. Decades and decades and decades, which is awesome. It shows your expertise. So before we dive in, I just wanted to offer a little more insight as to how this LinkedIn Live event will work. If you have questions during the event, post them as comments on LinkedIn. They will come up in the chat, and then we can discuss them during the Q&A portion at the end of the event. So we want this to be as interactive as possible, very conversational. So don't hesitate to comment and to send through your LinkedIn comments as we go. So with that, Graham, I will turn it over to you.
Well, thank you, Brian, and welcome, ladies and gentlemen. Very happy to be here along with my colleagues and friends, Robin and Paul. And as the first sort of slide here is demonstrating, we're going to be looking at trends, but in four sort of areas. First of all, consumer trends. Now, things I think most people would agree have changed quite a bit coming out of COVID in particular. So we're going to discuss what we've seen and where we see these trends going in the year ahead. And of course, while consumers have changed, so have workplace expectations changed as well. There's a level of evolution which I think many of us would consider quite remarkable if we've been, or some of us have been, in the industry for so many years. And of course, we are facing lots of challenges, some that we will touch on, some that we won't, but nonetheless, they're a reality. So one of the other areas that we really want to focus in, the third of them, is around technology, how that too has evolved at a remarkable pace for the vending industry, and what that might mean for us, and how we can streamline our operations, make them more efficient, to enable us to give a better service potentially, and certainly maintain the profitability of our businesses. And closely allied to that, the fourth area is around the integration of these systems. It's all very well having them, but what's the process of making sure they can really work for us? So, ladies and gentlemen, those are the kind of key areas that we'll be looking at. So if we can focus in on the first one of those, Brian, and we'll talk about emerging consumer trends. So the first one that we'd like to highlight really is all about cashless payments. We've got a piece of data here which suggests that 80% of all payments from self-service equipment of one sort or another, that's the extent of the overall usage by this year. Now, whether or not that comes to pass is something that we'll be highlighting. So let me go to you, Robin, first of all, with the first question. What are you seeing as you go around the country, UK and Ireland, talking to all sorts of operators? What are you seeing as trends when it comes to cashless payments?
Thanks, Graham. I would agree with you that cashless payments are expected to be 80%, and certainly the latest AVA census shows that 80% of machines that are not on free vend are now connected to a cashless payment of one format or another, and that's certainly improving the rate of transactions. Some increases have been seen of between 40 and 50%. Cash isn't dead, certainly on hot drinks machines with prices under 50p, and the move to premium drinks is definitely reducing that number of hot drinks machines with prices under 50p. Sorry, it's not my background noise you can hear there. It's my comedian friend somewhere. The interesting thing that I'm seeing is payments by phone are showing massive growth. And then from an operator point of view, some of our Vending Manager customers have halved the number of times a month that they collect cash from their machines. They're still collecting the same amount of cash per month, but they're doing it twice a month instead of every week. And I think that's just part of the trend that we're seeing of different working patterns leading to different consumption patterns, and then you don't need to collect the cash as often. So the cashless is increasing, but also how to collect the cash is an efficiency benefit.
Very interesting. Yeah, very interesting. Paul, you wanting to come in there with a comment?
Yeah, it's absolutely true that I think we're, as a business, these are all things for Northwest Vending, by the way. It may not be typical of the industry, but I'm just going to talk about us and our business and what we find useful. But certainly we're at the moment, we were doing some analysis yesterday with our van manager reports, and through our NHS business, 92% cashless. As much as that. And the interesting thing when we drill down into that, 67% of that is mobile phone, not card. So the majority, the mobile phone payments, and you kind of think, well, how's that relevant? But because it's changing the demographic of the people that use the machine, and cashless payments as a vending operator, as you rightly say there, Robin, are fantastic. We reduce the number of days we collect the cash. There isn't a risk element because there's not much left in the machine.
I get that.
And our integration through the software, it's not like it used to be 20 or 30 years ago. We needed to count the cash to know what money was coming in. We know exactly what it is.
Yeah.
So
on that point, then, do you still have a coin mech on the machines, and do you expect that to carry on, or might that change as well?
No, I think we do place coin mech. What two very nice contracts we recently won was the stipulation was they had to have a cash accepting system. Yeah, they've got to have it because there are a lot of people still operate that way. The Bank of England says that in 20 years' time, there will still be 5 to 10% of the nation operate with cash. So it's, as Robin said, it's not going away.
Hope for us yet then, Paul.
Yeah.
But anyway, I think on that point, perhaps we could move on to the next trend that we want to talk about. Now, going back 50 years, I can remember old shopper machines in a Courtaulds factory, and the canteen, the spare food would go into the vending machine. Yeah, I know, I'm showing my age again. But of course, the world has changed significantly. I don't think many of us expected fresh food to take this, raise its head again like it has. But of course, the world's changed. Equipment's changed, food options have changed, attitudes have changed. So, Paul, that appears to be the case to me, at least. But is that what you're also seeing at Northwest Vending?
Absolutely. I mean, as vending operators, food, really, we don't like it. Well, never used to, because it was difficult to control. The wastage was high. The selections, the storage, the distribution, getting involved in it was so far removed from the normal vending model that we didn't like to do it. But the modern market, the consumer, after COVID, there's a void left by contract caterers that needed to be filled. Excellent. So we made the decision to get into that, but our planning process was to make sure we had the right controls to do it. And it works for us. Yeah, we have a good model that works for us now. And we secure business and win business on the back of our food offering. But it can't be simple. Modern customers have very high demands.
Of course. Okay, Robin, similar experience elsewhere, would you say?
Yeah, and I just echo Paul's point that it is about, the trend is there. It's then about how managing it so that it is efficient for your company, because you can get into a whole lot of bother if it's not well managed.
Yeah, that makes sense.
The wastage factor is the big thing, and those acute controls are so necessary to make it profitable and make it pay. But you can do that.
Yeah, but this kind of demonstrates, if we can move to our next slide, Brian, please, that consumers are changing. as well, particularly maybe at the younger end. I think it would be fair to say, all the things that we've touched on so far, it seems to be that the younger generations are more comfortable with doing these things. So again, perhaps we can just go back to you, Paul. From the operators that are listening in now, just because Northwest are finding this to be the right move to make, why should they care about it? So what?
Well, what we found is, you're right. The ages have changed of the people that we deal with inside business, but they're a lot better informed, a lot more socially aware. Sustainability plays a big part. They want products and services that are ethnically diverse, that complement all kinds of tastes. And it's information driven as well. What we find is, the old age, you'd sign your contract, put your machines in and do what you said you were going to do and everything's okay. We have more meetings. We share the information based on what's been purchased.
Really?
But they demand this to prove that you know what you're doing. You're looking after them properly. But the upside of that is that we're able to manage the business better, because the same information allows us to merchandise the machines better, maximize the profit, make sure that our relationship with the suppliers are stronger. So that relationship with the customer helps us internally as well as externally.
Got you. So in fact, again, if we move on to the next trend that we're seeing, with all those things that we've discussed, the workplace itself is changing. Now, in the news in recent times, there's been quite a lot said about working practices, but also the expectation of the client and what he might need. You touched on a couple of things that are affecting decision makers. And I think, again, the next slide identifies some of those, Brian. Key decisions are not always based on the things they were some years ago. They include things like sustainability, social consciousness, healthier programs, wellness, and that's plus environmental matters. So in that regard, Paul, can I come back to you again? This question about wellness and healthy options, is that something you've been able to successfully introduce?
Absolutely, it plays a big part in our offering. But we don't just have a fresh food offering, or should we say chilled. We also have a frozen food offering, so which is really important, because that helps us manage the profitability, the storage and distribution better. But we follow this theme through. Obviously, for hospitals, it's the National Nutritional Standard and Sequin. But the market in general, people want high protein, they want low sugar, low salt, they want healthier products, sugar-free drinks. So we think, well, we've got to do it for one demographic. We may as well do it for all our customers, because the wants and the need is the same. And we also try to work with promotional activity that link healthier products as well through our sales program. So it's very much at the heart of what we do.
And Robin, looking further afield from northwest of England, is this something, what about some of these other areas that are shown on the screen? What about sustainability and social consciousness? How do we get these messages across to both the client and the consumer?
Graham, that's a really good question, but just a couple of fun facts from the AVA before I dive into that one. That backs up what you and Paul have just been saying. 7 years ago, only 34% of all confectionery sales were under 250 calories. Now it's 79%. And the same with soft drinks. 80% are now less than 5 grams of added sugar, compared to 44% in 7 years ago. So the market has changed. Consumer behaviour has changed.
Well, that confirms that.
And you see that in customers' websites. So just to mention a couple, Northwest Refresh Me Group and Graddon's within the Wise Group. You look at the About Us on the website, and it's all about ethically sourced products, ethically sourced beans, electric vehicles, miles per visit, that type of thing. Fair trade, less plastic, no more landfill. If you look at refreshment systems in the other side of the Pennines, the one that I regard as the better side of the Pennines, to be honest, but I'm not going to start a problem.
Watch it. Watch it.
Steady, please.
Their website, they're part of the cover group, so I've got two groups now, Wise Group, cover group. Their website talks about the net zero target. And again, it's all about this idea of sustainability, social consciousness, and appealing to the younger people who drive these expectations on sustainability.
Definitely.
iCoffee in London have ethically sourced beans and talk about using electric vehicles to get around the city of London. So the communication's changed, because it's definitely all on websites. About Us is full with a whole load of vending operators, which is talking about what they're doing with sustainability. Social media and LinkedIn in particular, you see it all the time with posts about what companies are doing. And then obviously there's the dreaded word tenders, which Paul will know all about, and that has to be in there anyway.
It does.
Yeah, and digital screens, just a final thing, are growing exponentially as well, right across the country.
Yeah, it's that information and communication thing again, isn't it? It's paramount.
Yeah, it is, no doubt about it. Now, of course, associated with all of these things, unfortunately, is the environment we're working in. So if we can move on again, Brian, please. So the question of managing costs, the question of addressing labour challenges. We've got to look for ways as operators to drive efficiencies for all sorts of reasons. So at that point, no better person to hand over to than you, Robin. So let me hand over to you at this point to help us to understand what the options are for leveraging improvements.
Sure. And this is about technology, Graham, and about a vending management system that assists the vending operator to be more efficient and to make savings really wherever they can, because as you say, labour costs are not going down, are they? They're going up.
No. Sadly.
The big thing, only three things to talk about, and I'll make them brief, but importantly, optimizing routes is the big saver, the biggest advantage of any vending management system, especially as we've just described. Hybrid working is now a thing post-COVID. Not everybody is in the workplace 5 days a week. So we've seen a significant growth in what I call non-fixed routes. So prior to COVID, a lot of fixed routes. You went Monday, Wednesday, Friday, and that was it forever. Now, there's a growth of visit on demand, where an operator is only going to fill the machine when it's needed to be filled, not because it's on a fixed route. And ultimately, certainly within Vend Manager, sorry, it's the only one of the few plugs I'm doing, we have auto fleet routing, which actually automates the whole process of routing of visits. But just to back that up, half our customers are now using visit on demand or auto fleet routing, and that's a big increase in the last 18 months. And if you don't want to do that, you can still do single walk using the cashless, which we talked about is growing. Use the cashless information at the van parked outside the site. You're going to fill 6 machines. At the van, you pull the latest data, you know what's sold, you pick from the van, and you only go once to walk to fill that machine. Moving on to the power of data as well, that data, there's the efficiency I've just described, but then there's the performance of the brands, there's the performance of the products that you put in the machine, and the data can tell you which brands deserve their space in the machine, which brands are selling most per spiral that you have in your limited number of spirals in the machine. And that data then leads you to having the best range of brands by machine, by site, by sector of business in which those machines are placed. And that must lead to maximum sales per sector, per machine, and for the operator. And then finally, Brian, and then if you've also got a way of changing those prices, so you want to change from a lower selling brand to another, then surely the best way to do that is to change the details in the back office management system, and then use data key at the machine to change that price in an instant. No more operators having to program machines to change prices of products. So making life easier. That's the power of technology today.
Improving profit as well.
Improving profit and efficiency. Now, I'm quite passionate about Vending Manager, as you all know, but I'd like to hear from you, Paul, because it's all right listening to a salesman, but actually let's listen to the customer, because they're going to be very honest about it. So from your perspective, when it comes to driving efficiencies, labour costs and everything else, how does your team use Vending Manager?
I think it's fair to say that, you know, I was no different going back, and we were no different in recent years, where we would take an industry specific software and then cherry pick from it and bend it to a you know, old perspective of how the vending operation works, you know, Monday, Wednesday, Friday, as you mentioned, Robin. The problem with that is we're not getting the best out of it. So with Vending Manager, we set about it completely differently. And I'm a big believer that your suppliers are just as important as your customers, because if you get a bad one, your customers are going to suffer. So we took the blinkers off. We formulated a team, got the heads from the different departments, and worked with Vending Manager to say, what's the roadmap here to arrive at the final destination? Set a time scale on it. Set review meetings on it, stuck to it, drove it forward with a principal leader, and it's been a great journey. It's not over yet. We're still completing things, but what we've seen is that some of the things Robin's just mentioned, simple things you don't get to see, like price increases, we can do them more often. You don't have to spend hours at the machine. You can target certain items in the machine where you never used to. You know, you sent an engineer or somebody there for 2 hours doing it. To do with one walk as well, which we got into early on, so that saves time, which marries up with our sustainability policy. We tell this to the customer, they love it to death as well. We use the reporting format to merchandise our machines. We use the planograms to ensure consistency across our purchasing. We're just about to move into visit on demand. We've got 2 routes. We're going to roll that out straight away. I'm really eager to get that done. I think the thing is, it's really hard for us that have been around a long time to kind of leapfrog all prejudices about what you do. But I think if you set your mind to it, you get a roadmap, you work with the supplier, you get it done, you very, very quickly see the benefits, very quickly, if that answers your question.
It does.
Yeah, and I'll chime in here, and anyone who has a question for Paul, we'd love to answer those. So feel free to submit a comment, and we'll see it as a chat, and then we can chat through it during the Q&A portion here in a couple of minutes. But Paul is a wealth of knowledge, and I think it's helpful to hear your perspective, Paul. Yeah. So
cool. So
good.
Shall I'm just going to carry on a little bit and just go.
Yeah, please.
The other part of technology is that we are seeing a growth of other solutions, whether that's, as you've said, Paul, frozen food, fresh food, touch screens, video screens, all having their own opportunities, but also the pressure to try and manage all those solutions, which have different things. So how do you do that, and what does it mean really to have an integrated platform?
Do you know, it's invaluable, I think, and we learned this on our journey. I think it's important as well to say that our working relationship is via each different department with Vending Manager. So the warehouse, the maintenance, the service, the operations, the sales, we all have linked objectives, but different ways of achieving it. So we work closely with the Vending Manager on that. We have a dedicated account manager. Phil, he's fantastic. And what we've been able to do is integrate not only the platforms through our micro markets and our till skills. We've also been able to integrate machines that are unique to us that we import, which Vending Manager looked at and said, yeah, we can help you with that. We're able to integrate anything where we fill, clean and maintain. And importantly, from the ordering in stage of product to the stock take and reconciliation level to the issue and distribution to the sale through the machine, every single thing is linked. And the reason it's important is, it's a pennies industry we're in, isn't it? We just need to make millions of them. And controlling the waste and maximizing the profit I know that's what it's always been about, but it's never been better than today to be able to do it properly, I think.
Brian, I think it does answer, and I think we have moved on a couple of slides, Brian, while we were talking about that, because we'd actually got to this power of one integrated platform. So it was a great answer, Paul. Thank you.
Is it back to me then, Robin?
It is. Yeah.
Okay. Well, thank you. I'm sure the audience have found those insights fascinating. We really appreciate it. But Paul, just before we do move on, I think we've had this conversation before, that there's also a big question around implementation. It obviously must bring challenges when it comes to making all the changes you've described. So how can we ensure it's going to be successful? What do we need to anticipate? What about the disruption to the rest of our business? Where do we start in your experience?
Well, do you know that it's a good question, because all that happens. So, just by understanding and expecting it gives you more control of it. But again, it comes back to the information. Whenever we reached a bump in the road, we were able to target it specifically. So, down to not just whether it's operations or whether it's a route, but down to a customer and even down to a single machine. But it was the importance was in the planning bit, and the plan was very much done as a linear experience with Vending Manager. We wanted to know what their objectives were working with us, and we wanted a completely blank canvas. So we started with the plan, get the right people, put a proper time scale on it, made it realistic and time bound, but more importantly, made it achievable. So everybody understood the journey. There was a route map there. We could stop and look where we were on the journey at any one time. I'm able to review a position, the success we'd had, and the savings that we were making. So the plan is really, really important. I mean, everybody's going to know that anyway, aren't they?
Well, you think so, yeah. So they're the key areas then, you'd say, for us to think about. I mean, that's interesting. Sorry. Carry on, Paul. Sorry.
No, I was going to say start with the plan, but regular reviews as well, and involve the supplier at each stage. Make sure that they're meeting expectations. To get the most value, you have to use every aspect, and that means not being afraid of the bumps in the road we've mentioned, because it's going to happen. But they're very quickly dealt with. They're very quickly overcome, and pretty soon you realise that your old prejudices were unfounded. Really, it's just a new way of doing things in a new world with new customers.
Yeah. Just got to be younger for longer, Paul. That's what we've got to do. So look, as we start to wind up, can I thank on behalf of everybody in our audience, and thank Cantaloupe for organising this, and thank especially you, Robin, and you, Paul. But if I can just ask one final question each, if taking into account all the things you've talked about for the last 30 minutes or so, if there was just one thing an operator should take away, in your opinion, what would it be? Paul, let me go to you first. What's the key? If you could only pick one thing, what would it be?
Do things differently. Do things differently. Don't be afraid. Do things differently, because there are too many of your competitors doing things the same way and not making a difference. So stand out, be bold, take the lead, do things differently.
Very good. Yeah, appreciate that. And what about you, Robin? Any single thing?
I'd just say, following on from Paul, really, embrace the new technology, but just ensure that your new innovations and solutions integrate into one central platform that makes it easier to manage and easier to embrace that change.
Yeah. And from a personal point of view, I think we'll also agree that while it is a bit tough at the moment, the opportunities are still there. We've just got to make sure we're well positioned to take full advantage of them. I'm sure you'd agree with that as well. Well, I hope you would anyway. So, look, at that point, I think it's back to you, Brian. And thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen.
Thank you, Graham. Thank you, Robin. Thank you, Brian.
Yeah. Thank you, Graham, Paul, and Robin. And we do have a couple questions that have come in. So thank you, everyone, for attending. And the first question we had a couple times. It looks like people are interested in getting the presentation deck. And yes, so we can certainly provide that. So I will be sending that out to you if you've requested that through LinkedIn after the call. So that's no problem. The next question, so I'm going to put it on screen here, from Ryan, and he's asking Paul, with your dynamic routing, are you using pre-kitting?
I'm guessing Ryan means pre-kitting. Does that mean in pre-pack?
Pre-packing.
Yeah, talking about when you pick.
Yeah. Yes, we do, Ryan. One of the first initiatives we brought in from Vending Manager was pre-pack. It works really, really well. Again, it's different mindset, a different approach. You have to get everybody on board. Your warehouse has to be on board. Your operations have to be on board. Your managers have to buy into it, be enthusiastic and evangelical about it. But it works, and it works very well. I looking back, you kind of think, you managed without it, to be honest, how you did it another way. So we do use it, yes, and it works very, very well.
Okay. And it looks like we have a comment that I think is relevant. As new legislation comes into force, there will be much greater reporting and management requirements from government, all of which adds to the administration needs of operators and the software to support that. So I'm curious, Paul and Robin and Graham, if you guys have thoughts on that or insights to share regarding that point.
If I can answer first, because it's relevant. We do a lot of work with the NHS, and it's very much the case. You have to have this at your fingertips. But, one time where you've been waiting 3 or 4 days to compile all this together, we get it. We compile reports. It's available in minutes. Yesterday, I was working on the turnover and rebates and profitability and payment systems and everything. I got all that information within 15 minutes, and it was with the customer within 45. It was very painless, very easy.
I think one of the other areas that is going to come relates to environmental legislation, where deposit return schemes, which they've confirmed are going to be happening, the extended producer responsibility, even understanding how it works and what the responsibilities for reporting are still, in a rather a foggy situation. But at some point we're going to, and very soon we're going to be able to get some information pretty quickly. Otherwise it's going to be a very onerous responsibility. So any software support will be massive. I'm not sure if we know what they're wanting yet well enough to be able to say to you, to SB Soft, we need this, and this, but it's going to be coming soon. That really, it's already here in some cases.
Yeah, it is to a certain degree, Graham. You're absolutely right.
And I think we're ready for that, Graham, because that's part of the development plan of Vending Manager, to be able to make the operator's life as easy as possible, and that does include reporting on specifics, whatever those specifics turn out to be.
Excellent.
It does. Information is power, isn't it? And power is nothing without control, and we get all that.
It would help if the government would make their mind up what it is they do want. We can, but there we are. We'll get there in the end, I'm sure.
Okay.
Yes.
Well, it looks like that's all the questions, and I have seen a couple more comments come in for to receive the slide deck. So I will, as soon as we are concluded, I will go ahead and send that out to those individuals who've requested it. Robin, Paul, Graham, thank you guys so much. Any closing comments?
Pleasure.
No, it's a real pleasure to engage with all colleagues and within an industry we love.
Yeah, here.
Agreed.
Yeah,
great. Well, thank you, everyone, and I hope you have a great rest of your day. And this stream will also be available to view on demand. Essentially, if you go to our LinkedIn page, you can watch it over again if you'd like. So, yeah, thanks everybody for your time.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, well done to you, Brian. Cheers, I believe it's 4:30 in the morning for you.
Oh yeah.
Get back to bed.
It's a pleasure. Yep. Thank you.
Stay up and go down to the beach, Brian.
Thank you. See you, everybody.
Cheers.
Bye. Bye.
Bye.
Bye. Thank you. Thank
Bye.
you.